The man, the myth, the legend, Nuts Burke. The second best black swordsman, first being Kirito of course, and the hunter of demons. Could this man, built like a brick fucking house, beat the Festival of Termina from Fear and Hunger 2? Before that, I'm sure there are some smooth-brained little apricots out there who don't even know what a Termina is. The Festival of Termina is a 3-day event in which a small number of contestants must compete in a battle royale to be the last one standing. During these 3 days, they'll be pushed to their mental and physical limits, having to use every skill and item at their disposal to survive. It's like if the Hunger Games were written by H.P. Lovecraft. The moon god, Rare, is the one overseeing this event. If a contestant decides, nah, screw this, I'm out, or decides to take moral high ground and spare their fellow contestants, they get moon-scorched, which basically means they get turned into a horrifying monster relative to their biggest fear. So yeah, you can't really deny the Festival of Termina. It'll have its way with you somehow or another. So on to our big bad boy, Gumshoe Burbacrack. Can he survive the Festival of Termina? Before we begin, let's set some ground rules. Rule 1, this video takes place in the Termina universe, not in the Berserk universe. For all intensive purposes, the God Hand don't exist in this world and therefore can't influence the festival. This also means Gut's brand doesn't take effect here, since, you know, there kinda isn't a point in having the brand if the God Hand don't exist. Gut's personality, lived events, and combat experience are all carried over into his time in the festival, and yes, I know that technically doesn't make sense. How can Guts be exactly the same if the God Hand don't exist? Just don't overcomplicate it, man. Pretend he was out picking flowers or something and fell into a portal. Whatever sets your mind at ease. Rule 2. Equipment is allowed, but no special powers. The power of the brand is relative to the Berserk universe, so it won't work during the festival. The same goes for the Berserker armor. Guts can wear the armor, sure, but he won't receive the special effect of it holding his body together if he's too badly injured. For all purposes, the Berserker armor is just a regular set of armor. The Dragon Slayer and False Arm are allowed, since they don't offer Guts any unfair, out-of-universe advantages. Rule 3. Guts will act as if he were a normal contestant. He'll make his own decisions during the festival. The only caveat is that the decisions must be in line with his canon personality. For example, Guts isn't going to cram himself into the bloody toilet hole in Old Town. Not just because he won't fit, but also because that's not something Guts would ever do. If you can't imagine canon Guts in the manga taking that action, then he's not gonna take that action here either. Rule 4. Guts is mortal. This should be an obvious rule, but I feel like I should clarify anyway. If Guts dies during the festival, he loses. No respawning or deus ex machinas. If Guts fucks up and gets himself chopped up by Moonless or molested by Pocket Cat, that's his story over. Finished. Okay, that's all the rules. Let's finally answer the question, can Guts survive the Festival of Termina? Guts starts on the train, the starting point for all contestants, and sits at the back where he won't be bothered, because let's face it, Guts isn't exactly a social butterfly, hard to imagine why. At the beginning of the game, every contestant has the same dream, a dream which very briefly outlines the festival. It basically just tells you to go out there, head to the moon tower, and be the last one standing. Let's be real though, Guts has bad dreams almost every time he sleeps. He's not going to take this one any more seriously than the others. He's going to wake up thinking it was the work of an incubus and say, that was weird, and go on his merry way. Outside the train, Guts doesn't talk to any of the other contestants. He lingers for a few minutes to get a grasp of the situation, but once he realises the train isn't going anywhere, he wanders off on his own. Guts is a lone wolf, he likes his own company and does better when he doesn't need to worry about anybody else. He goes west away from the train and comes across a ritual circle in the woods. Guts has seen dead bodies before, so this sight isn't gonna freak him out like it does to Tanaka. Coward. It will put him on edge though. Guts knows better than to overlook signs of danger. He doesn't jump to any conclusions, but he does raise his guard. Pressing on, Guts encounters the woodsman, who is heartily chopping up Bobby from Old Town. Real shame that, I liked Bobby. Anyway, this is the first real threat of Termina, the make it or break it challenge if you will. If you can't beat the woodsman, then oh boy, this festival is gonna kick your ass. The woodsman attempts to attack Guts, but unfortunately he's picking a fight with the wrong guy. Guts clobbers the woodsman before he can get within arm's reach. Look, man, the woodsman is the woodsman, and the dragon slayer is the dragon slayer. The sword cuts horses in half, for God's sake. The woodsman is toast. Moving into Old Town, Guts meanders through the empty streets, avoiding conflict where he can. Unfortunately for him, however, the residents are a bit irritable and don't give kind greetings. Guts isn't going out of his way to kill anybody here, he's not that kind of guy. If someone threatens his safety though, well, you can imagine what happens. So no trouble in Old Town. And you might be thinking, what about the Vial? That guy's terrifying and poses a challenge. And you're right. To that I say, nice argument. However, the Vial's only human. Doesn't matter how you slice it, pun intended. That pig-mask lunatic is getting his shit rocked. Guts goes right and deeper into Old Town. He's already sliced up a few folk since arriving here and tries to avoid getting into any more fights. He arrives at the mayor's manor just in time for dinner. Now, here's something you gotta understand. The Dragon Slayer is like 6 feet in length. There's no way Guts is swinging that thing indoors. Any combat that takes place inside needs to be handled using other methods. Luckily, Guts isn't short on tools. The priest in the mayor's manor is easily handled with a left hook to the jaw, and you might be thinking, there's no way Guts kills someone with one punch, but, 2 words for you. Metal arm. Moving on to our first contestant, the mayor himself, Henrik. Side note, this guy looks like every Redditor mixed into one man. The milady dress sense and the pretentious speech patterns just sell it for me. You sit down to dinner with this guy and he asks you if you'll upvote his food. Yeah, no way. Guts is not losing to a Reddit mod. Henrik is getting smoked. Also, put your damn grippers away, you grubby little bastard. Before getting turned into mincemeat, Henrik lived just long enough to tell Guts about the 2 keys that unlock the main Prahival gate. The first is with the mayor, who is now dead, and the second is in the Bremen bunker across Old Town. Guts takes the first key from the mayor and marches back to get the other. Outside Old Town, Guts runs across a couple of headless dogs. I mean, these things are seriously creepy. I have no doubt Guts can handle them both with a couple of swings, but damn, the mental image of being charged by headless dogs. Ugh. I'm sure Guts won't complain though, this is hardly the worst animal he's encountered. Guts enters the Bremen bunker in search of the second key. The bunker is indoors, so again, the Dragon Slayer isn't going to be of any use here. If Guts gets into any fights down here, he needs to be prepared to get creative. Guts looks around for a bit and... uh-oh. What's that sound? Oh my god, it's Art the Clown. Yeah, so Tanaka gets his head lopped off by Needles, a pretty gory sight, but hey, look on the bright side, it's one less contestant to worry about. Guts versus Needles is an interesting matchup, especially when you consider that Guts can't use his sword. The only advantage I think Guts has here is that he's wearing thick armour. I don't know about you, but I don't think a syringe is poking through Guts' breastplate. His arms are fair game though. This fight boils down to who strikes first. If Needles whips out the blicky and shoots Guts between the eyes, it's GG for our black swordsman. However, if Guts doesn't beat around the bush and fires his cannon arm right away, Needles is getting blasted back to the circus where his goofy ass belongs. Since this video would be dreadfully boring if Guts died here, let's say for argument's sake that he wins against Needles. Guts looks around for a bit and finds some instructions on how to start the generator because let's be honest, the guy's from the Middle Ages, all this technology is going to give him an aneurysm. He finds his way into the lower levels and an unsettling banging follows his trail. Yeah, this might give our boy some trouble. With the Dragon Slayer, Guts could curb stomp Chagnar. Without it, however, this encounter becomes a lot more dangerous. Guts is going to get tossed around a bit here, thrown into a few walls, pummeled a few times. Not enough to kill him, but certainly enough to give him a tense fight. To win this, Guts needs to make full use of his arsenal. He uses these little bomb things to briefly stun Chagnar. While the beast is distracted, Guts uses one of the throwing knives on his chest to slit its throat. Guts is going to take a nasty beating here, but I have confidence he'll win. This fight tests Guts' battle IQ and how well he can make use of his secondary armaments, which, if you've read Berserk, you'll know is pretty well. Guts gets the second key and leaves the bunker. Does the guy catch a break? Hell no! Waiting for him at the top is Mr. Pavel Yudin. Pav's a loudmouthed little prick who thinks he can walk all over people and get off scot-free. Unlucky for this brat, he just chose to get mouthy with the wrong guy. I'm gonna assume Guts isn't in the best mood after his back-to-back fights with Needles and Chagnar. So, what happens when you cross a pissed-off swordsman with a narcissistic Nazi? Woohoo! We can finally enter Prehevo! That means we're only like a third of the way done. Huh. Okay, I'm gonna speed this up a bit. I'm not going over every little detail. I'll stick to the important events and interesting interactions. Everything else, just assume that Guts kills it with so much efficiency that it isn't worth mentioning. Like the bobbies, for example. Guts is gonna make his way to the Church of Ulmer. To pass, 3 effigies are scattered throughout the city and must be placed at the altar. Thus begins the hunt. The first effigy is in the church and requires Guts to climb up to the rafters and drop a chandelier through the floor, all while avoiding getting molested by BDSM pillar men. That's not even a joke. These guys are actually called pillar men. Cars, what happened, man? Okay, but Guts can easily chop down a chandelier and a few pillar men while he's at it. And he starts poking around in the basement for the first effigy, but oh no, it's not that easy, because why would it be? First we had buff BDSM pillar men, and now we have hentai monsters? Alright pal, this is getting a bit weird, let's shut this down. These guys are single and ready to mingle. Solution? Cannonball to the face and stomp the living shit out of the corpse for good measure. Thank God there's nothing else down here. Guts finds the first effigy and is now home free, at least for now. And you know, while I'm on the topic, I appreciate the originality of the church in Fear and Hunger Termina. Typically, when a story wants to make a church disturbing, they slap in a paedophile pastor and call it a day. And I mean, sure, it's scary, but it's way too overdone, and at this point it's a little bit bland. Not to mention, it's a hurtful stereotype to priests. Thank you, Termina. Very cool. After getting the first effigy, Guts heads to the White Mold Apartments. The only issue is, the apartments are hidden in some back alleys in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. On his way, he crosses paths with an anthropomorphic beehive? Alright then. Okay, I know I made that sound ridiculous, but this thing is goddamn frightening. It's big, solid, white, and invades my personal space. And yes, that was a goddamn joke. Okay, aside from being freakishly buff, the bee-man isn't too difficult. It launches a few bees at you, it's not a big deal, Guts wins. What is a big deal, however, is the ratty yellow mage Osa lurking in the middle of the road. Like, move, bro, we need to pass. Alright, words don't work, we're just gonna walk by. Or so you'd think. No, this guy takes his personal space real serious. The minute Guts tries to shimmy his big ass by, Osa hits the griddy and rips off one of his limbs. It's not even wrong. I mean, if you try to pass this guy in game, you lose a limb, and since Guts has no way of knowing this is gonna happen, he's sadly gonna walk right into it. Guts loses a leg to Osa before the fight even starts. Honestly, this is another point that could end Guts' run. If he loses his good arm, his only arm, might I add, he's cooked. For the sake of keeping this video going, I'm gonna be generous and say that Guts only loses a leg. The actual fight against Osa isn't a problem. We've been over the power of the Dragon Slayer numerous times by now. Osa dies in one hit. The yellow mage is a glass cannon. He hits hard, like really hard, but goes down like a napkin in water. Guts Finally, Guts hops his way to the White Mold Apartments and starts looking for the second effigy. The puzzle in this place is confusing. You need numbers, a diary, and some kind of unicorn statue. Guts is a smart cookie, I'm sure he'll figure it out. After the puzzle, we can claim the effigy. All we need to do is climb through this washing machine and... oh shit. There is no way in hell Guts is fitting through that hole. You're telling me this guy right here is squeezing himself into a washing machine? Hard pass. Well, looks like that's it. Guts' adventure ends here because ain't no way he is getting through that. But come on, that's not a satisfying ending, is it? No, I think we can bend the rules a bit and keep going. Obviously, Guts would never do this, but let's assume for argument's sake that he crams his fat ass into that washing machine and pops out on the other side. Cool, let's grab that effigy. Surely nothing else is gonna stand in our way. Oh shit, it's Marco. This is by far Guts' hardest opponent. Marco's Moonscorched form is a beast, and I don't mean just literally, I mean he's also a beast in combat. He's strong, fast, has the HP of a fire engine. Now, I don't know if we're letting Guts use the Dragon Slayer in the alternate dimensions because, you know, it's technically still inside, but it's in another dimension, so... oh, screw it. Guts can use the sword. I don't think he'll survive this fight without it. Marco likes to toss bodies. Bodies that grow out of him. Ew, dude, gross. Keep that to yourself. Anyway, Guts is gonna get a few corpses tossed his way, and without a leg, I don't think he's dodging them. Sorry to say, Guts is taking a beating here. While he's recovering from being hit by a flying man, Marco rushes over to Guts and beats him over the head with those giant fists. This won't concuss Guts, but it'll sure as hell disorientate him. All the while, he is just getting wailed on. If Guts can somehow find a break in Marco's anger, get his bearings enough to stand, and land an attack, he's halfway there. What? Did you really think Marco was going down with just one swing? Don't be ridiculous, look at the guy! He's gonna take at least 2 hits from Dragon Slayer before he falls, and even then it's dependent on those hits being headshots. So, does Guts beat Marco, or is the giant too fearsome to fall? Okay, let's be honest, Guts wins. It's close, I'll give him that, but Guts wins. The dude takes a tanking from Zod multiple times in Berserk. If Guts can take a few hits from Zod, he can take a few from Marco. Anything Marco hits Guts with, he's getting back up from. Guts wins and gets the second effigy. After the apartments, it's orphanage time. Cheery. The orphanage is freaky but not too dangerous. It's filled with these little chicken nugget creatures who go down easy enough. The only danger is in the final room and... oh god. It's him. It's the predatory pastor himself, Father Hugo. I recognize that face. He was on the island. He was on the flight logs. I knew I wasn't crazy. Well, predator or not, he's going down. The minute this guy starts stripping, he's getting a face full of Dragon Slayer. Easy victory. The effigy is in the courtyard, past Father Hugo. We go into another alternate dimension, and this time we get jumped by Levi. This is one of those fights where it all depends on who strikes first. If Levi shoots Guts, Guts could die. If Guts slashes Levi, Levi will die. So let's assume that Guts isn't a complete idiot and attacks the machine gun monster on sight. Guts can now claim the final effigy and head back to the Church of Ulmer. Before progressing though, there's a couple more contestants in the church that we got to take care of. First up, Samari in the basement. Samari by far has the best Moonscorch design. It's so gnarly. She uses magic though, and that might be a problem for Guts. Remember the spell Osa used to tear off Guts' leg? Yeah, well, Samari has it too. Guts is gonna need some serious luck if he wants to hop away from this one. I'm gonna be honest, Guts probably dies around this point. He's strong, sure, and can beat every contestant in a one-on-one fight. The issue starts to arise though when he needs to beat them all back to back. Still, we're gonna keep going, assuming Guts gets ultra lucky. After Samari, it's Marina. Marina is also a magic user, but she doesn't have the limb ripping spell, so it's at least somewhat manageable. Marina is tanky though. She's gonna take some serious damage before going down. Guts is gonna have to use a lot of his energy if he wants to emerge victorious. But, with a little bit of persistence, he can win. Whew, 2 hard fights right next to one another. Let's hope there's nothing else bad waiting for us.
You gotta be kidding me.
Fine, God, we'll fight the furry too. Pro tip, if you chop off Rancid's arm, he whines like a little baby and runs away. And I'm not the only one who thinks those arms look pretty scrawny, right? Okay, this might be controversial, but I think Guts smokes Rancid even when he's on death's door. Rancid claims to be from a race of proud warriors, but the only thing he's proud of is scurrying away with his tail between his legs. Okay, that was a gauntlet and a half. After the church fiasco, we can finally move on to the museum. Here Guts will encounter his last contestant battles, Olivia and Dan. Let's tackle Olivia first. Olivia is a slow-moving hunk of metal that occasionally spews out poison gas. Now, this is where the cannon arm becomes quite handy, pun intended. I don't know about you, but I think Olivia looks fairly explodable. Guts shoots her, she dies, the end, let's move on. Dan now. Okay, I made a joke about Rancid Circle being a furry, but he's got nothing on this guy. Dan is like the fear and hunger furry. Luckily for Guts, Dan isn't too tough. The hardest thing about the pocket cat is his cock. Too far, man. Too far. Anyway, Guts versus Dan the pocket cat. Pocket Cat has a unique ability to rip off a player's limb of their choosing. God damn, why does everything in this game want to dismember you? This is unquestionably a game over for Guts. The guy has no limbs left to give, unless you want him crawling the rest of the game. Okay, so Guts loses a leg, but Pocket Cat loses his life. It's a fair trade. On to the final trial, the Moon Tower. Now that all the contestants are dead, the Moon Tower opens its gate for the sole survivor. That's it, right? The festival's over? Nope, because that would be too easy. Perkele waits at the top of the Moon Tower to give a grand speech about how you've done well, but he's gonna kill you anyway because he didn't like your performance. What a prick. Send this guy to the carnival, Guts. Poor old Needles needs a friend. Oh shit, is that a meteor? Well, damn. One meteor later and one Dragon Slayer swing and Guts kills the funny Birdman. But it's still not over because the fucking moon wants to run a train on you. Damn, it's almost like this game is designed to be cruel. So this is the Moon God Rare, and his ability is draining your mind to make you go insane. That is actually pretty bad luck for the Moon God. Don't you know this man is already insane? Ain't nothing gonna scar him more than Griffith did. So yeah, a few arm cannon shots later and maybe a few Dragon Slayer slices if you're feeling frisky, and the moon flies away, leaving Guts the sole survivor of the Festival of Termina. But what about Karen and Caligura, I hear you asking? Yeah, those two. Well, Karen's a journalist, she can cover her own story, and Caligura... Man, fuck that guy, I don't want to cover his story. Those two died off screen. Okay, so, in conclusion, does Guts beat the Festival of Termina? Yes-ant. Look, Guts can win if he gets lucky, but he needs to get extremely lucky multiple times. He needs to not get shot by Needles, not get his arm chopped off by Osa, not lose any limbs to Samari, and not bleed out before he crawls to the Moon Tower. It's possible, sure, but do you really think it's plausible? I think it's around a 5% chance that Guts triumphs and a 95% chance that he dies a horrible death. Tell you what, we'll let fate decide. Well, I'll be damned.